steward the yoke that the Lord was really, I think, very clearly speaking to us this morning of his yoke. I'm not. I think that word entails a lot of things. It's not a simple thing. Oh yeah, I've got the yoke of Jesus on me. No, I think it's something that we learn to bear, and we come under it, like the song says, and under that yoke we find freedom. We find freedom, but it's a yoke. There's something to carry. There's something to carry, and a yoke restricts your movement. You don't just go running off wherever you want. When you're in the yoke, the master is directing you where to go, right? So I think there's a lot to it, and I think it is something that we should really hold on to and steward and treasure. I would. Oh, Barbara, I'll bring the microphone to you.
What I saw while we were worshiping was the yoke is like a very lightweight gold that is a cloth. It looks like cloth. It feels like cloth on me as I experienced that. But I see it on every one of you too.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Barbara. So, we're blessed to have Gabby Jenkins with us today. As for any of you don't know if you're new, you may not know the Jenkins. The Jenkins are a pillar in this body. Their family is a solid part of the foundation of this body, and we're so blessed that their children are growing up in the power and the nurture of the Lord. And Gabby has is moving in her the beginnings of her ministry, of her life with the Lord, and she's going to share that with us today. So Gabby, come on up and share with us.
Thank you. Wow. Hello, everyone. I'm so thankful for this opportunity just to share in front of everyone. Oh, okay. I'm going to try and stay still. Oh, okay. Oh, boy. Thanks, Dad. So, yeah, I was just given this opportunity to share a little bit just of this last season in Kona, Hawaii. And for those who don't know, I am with YWAM, Youth with a Mission. It's a very big global organization. And so I am currently right now staffing in Kona, Hawaii, staffing School of Worship. So it's been super incredible. But before I start some of the testimonies and what God did in that time, I just wanted to pray and open up. So, Jesus, thank you. Jesus, thank you for this time and just that we all get to be here together as a family, Father. I just thank you for the sharing time. Jesus, we just invite your presence here. We just make space for you, Father. Any distractions, Father, I just pray against them. And I just pray that this be a sweet time and that this be a time of encouragement too. Thank you that it's not about me, Father. it's really all about you and just what you are doing right now, Father. In our lives and in this world, Father. So I step out of the way, and Jesus, just allow space for you to move and work in this place. Amen. So I left in September of last year to fly out to Kona, and it was very, very like last second. So about 3 weeks before arrival day, where all the students arrived, there was about 800 plus students that came, which was a miracle during COVID. But it was a miracle that we actually got to run that quarter. And so 3 weeks before, I just felt this burning in my heart. I had a job at the hospital and everything, and I'm like, okay, like typically there's this thing where it's called you put in your 2 weeks, so you have to work 2 weeks before you go, I just felt this burning in my heart, and I didn't really understand what it was. And a couple days after I started feeling that burning sensation inside of me, I started feeling an urgency. And I was really confused why I was feeling an urgency in the midst of a season of working and getting money. And so my friend called me all of a sudden, and she was actually staffing School of Worship. And she was like, hey, you should totally come and staff School of Worship because they're looking for staff. And I was like, oh, that's great. I got a job and everything, so I can't. But thanks for the invite. I love that. I love the sound of going back to Hawaii and stuff. And then that same night at around midnight, the school leader messaged me out of the blue and invited me to staff School of Worship. And he said, hey, I just want to invite you and to Kona to be a part of staff. I know what type of season you're in right now, but he was aware of the burning sensation inside of me that I hadn't told him, but he was aware of that. And I immediately said no, and I was like, I'm sorry, like I can't. And he's like, would you be willing to just pray about it? And I was like, yeah, totally. I'll be willing to pray about it and then give you a response. And I was at work having my lunch break, and all of a sudden I just decided, like, all right, let's just go on to the YWAM Kona page. And I found myself applying for staff, and I was like, oh gosh, what am I doing? What am I getting myself into? And from then on, I just felt this confidence and this release of, okay, like I feel the green light to go. So I actually put in my 2 weeks that day to my boss, and I worked my 2 weeks. Friday was my last day, and I flew out Sunday. So pulled a 12-hour shift. I did it, but it was so good, and I was so expectant for what God had in that season. And I actually would not have been able to go with a lot of your guys' prayers and help to get there, which is why I'm so thankful for this opportunity to share, because you guys really helped me be a part of what God is doing in YWAM Kona. So arrival day was a hassle. We had to COVID test over 800 plus students. It was fun being a part of that team. It was actually really interesting in how they did that whole testing. And it was a miracle because the whole quarter, there were only 15 COVID cases. The whole 3 months, 0 in School of Worship. And so it was phenomenal, like that there were barely any COVID cases. And so there was so much that God did, and I only have time for a few stories to share with you. So I wanted to share one, which was there was so much healing, physical healings that was happening in YWAM Kona, and it was so awesome to just witness and be a part of. And so one of our students came into the quarter depressed, with depression, had been dealing with it the whole pandemic. And we just felt when we were going through the acceptance process of she's in a hard season, but maybe this is a season that will help her get out of that depression. And so we actually accepted the student and let them be in the school. And they were depressed for most of the school. So she would not show up to class. She would not do her homework. She was about 6 weeks behind on homework. And at this rate, we can't pass a student with that type of attendance and work ethic and all that. But it was so cool to be a part of her journey. And she did end up leaving early, the school, but she went home healed from depression. And it was so cool to see physically in her countenance the depression leave. We all prayed. We fought every Wednesday afternoon. We had staff meeting and we prayed and interceded for her and said, like, this is the end of depression. This is the end. This is the season. This is why she was accepted. She may not have passed, but this was the season in where it was time for that depression to go. And so we all laid hands on her as a staff, and then another time as a whole class. And it was incredible to just see her head lift up, and she started jumping up and down. And it was cool to witness that because I've never really seen quite a healing like that from depression. And it was so encouraging, and we were all on fire and just ready. Even though the quarter was ending, we just felt like this is actually just the beginning, even though the quarter is ending. So yeah, there was depression's healing, but then there was also physical healings of another student who had some like physical issues, some things inside of her. We still aren't very sure, but the doctor's diagnosed and said that she had like some sort of cyst that ruptured or burst. And so it needed to go into emergency surgery and all that. And she was very, very sick. And we were like, well, before you make the decision of having surgery the next morning, why don't we pray over you? And so she's in the hospital. And I mean, there's only a couple people that could go because of COVID times and stuff. But we prayed at the base. And then a couple of the people, staff there, prayed for her, and she still wasn't feeling better and all that. And so I was like, I guess she's just got to go with the surgery. And the next morning we all started praying and stuff, and she walks in through the front door, and we're like, what are you doing? Like, you were in the hospital bed. What do you do? And all of us were so shocked of like, we were literally speechless. We literally just had no explanation. She had no explanation, really. The doctors really had no explanation. They were floored and confused. But when we spent some time with each other and prayed and saw her walking through that door, we couldn't even go through with the teaching that day because we were like just in shock. And we knew that it was our prayers, but not only our prayers, but the power of God that really healed her. And she was completely healed from that moment and never had any other health issue throughout the whole quarter. And so it was, just pretty incredible to be a part of the physical healings that were happening in Kona. Not only was God moving in that way, but there were some hard challenges. The first 4 or 5 weeks, we had guest speakers set up that were to travel in from other countries and stuff, but actually all 4 canceled on us on Saturday, and they were to fly in Sunday, and then Monday they would teach. So we were having to be like, who are we supposed to have speak to the students? We've got about 2 days to do this, to pull this together. And it was incredible. YWAM Kona has a lot of really good leaders too. And so huge music department too. So we were able to just pull from there. We prayed about it as a staff team, and then like, all right, let's ask this person. And thankfully people said yes, but it just was a weird setup sometimes of like one speaker speaking from Monday through Wednesday and then a different one like Thursday and Friday. But we had one guest speaker come in, and she was in charge of the prayer room there. And I've never met anyone quite like that. her her prayer life is beyond anything that I've ever seen, and something that I have admired, and ever since I saw her, wanted to be like her in her prayer life. I mean, she walks around clearing the space, and it's like she's got caffeine, just inside of her, and it just never ends. She keeps talking, praying, and physically doing things with her hands. And it's wonderful to witness that. But she spoke Monday through Wednesday, and the whole time, so she walked in Monday, and she's like, "Hi, I'm in charge of the prayer room. I don't actually know a lot of you, but I just want to begin this time with prayer." And immediately she just starts praying and whole thing. And then all of a sudden we're all sitting down, and students start getting up, getting out of their chairs, walking to the back of the room, pacing back and forth from the front and back. And us staff are sitting in the back, and we're kind of like, this is kind of distracting. Like, we should probably have them sit down. Why is everyone getting up? And then no, and then I see in the corner some staff getting up, and I'm like, what is going on? And I actually was the last person to stand up. I was so little too in awe of like what was going on in the room. So, but yeah, man, the fire and electricity of God was in that room. I mean, all of us felt it. As soon as I was the last one to stand up and start pacing, from our neck down to our toes, there was an electricity why we couldn't stand still or like sit or anything. And it was so incredible to be praying for one another and be like literally zapped by one another. It was so cool. And we did that for about 4 hours of walking around the room, literally. She didn't teach. She didn't teach at all. That was her teaching, just praying for one another, praying, walking around the room and literally touching one another on the backs and getting zapped. So that was really fun to do that for like 4 hours. Yeah, no, like literally physically we would touch one another to pray, and we would get zapped. And we knew that it wasn't just friction between clothes and stuff like, it was like actually the fire and electricity of God that was so incredible and present. And there were so many things I got to be a part of like that I'd never experienced in my life. So this whole like staffing season was so eye-opening for me. It was like totally new. Yeah. And so, but the biggest thing that I want to share with you, that I really think is not just with YWAM Kona, but globally, what the Lord is doing across the world. There was one day that I will forever be marked, and I feel like I've been forever changed by this one moment. And there's actually an audio that I wanted to share with you, but I'm going to share a little bit about it. So, Kona has some unpredictable weather, let's just say, and yeah, you never know when it's going to start flooding. And there's so many, like when it floods there, it floods. Like my shoes go down the campus. I'm like, that's mine. And I have to like run after it. Like it floods. And yeah, but it decided to rain and rain and rain. And yeah, so we lost electricity, and it actually happened twice the quarter I was there. In 3 months, we lost electricity, the whole campus. And but thankfully, YWAM Kona, they don't let anything stop them. And so we have like all corporate worship gatherings, contending mornings with different schools and stuff. So every morning from 8 to 9. And we were kind of like, okay, like we have a lot of music equipment, like plug-in guitars, electrics, keys, like so many things that require power and electricity, And but we actually felt like we were supposed to continue it. And this is 800 plus students gathered in one place. And yeah, so we were like, all right, we're going to take our instruments just in case the power comes back, but we're actually going to do everything a cappella. And I was like, oh, this is going to be embarrassing. Throwback to, we got to get our harmonies, our pitches perfect. Like you mess up one little note and everyone hears it. So I was pretty nervous, even for the team of like being up there. But it was incredible because we did not need electricity or instruments at all, because we actually had an encounter of, we had a host of angels come and sing with us, and we got it on audio. And I wanted to share that with you. This was significant for me because I know there are angels around me constantly, but it was the first time I ever heard the host angels actually sing. And so in the audio, you will hear kind of like an instrumental of like, I don't know, it's just like a pretty one tone, but you'll be able to like see and hear the actual angels, and it's incredible. Like, yeah, it really is incredible because it sounds like there is like music and like the keys or the synth maybe in the background, but it's actually the angels, because we had no power to actually even use a synth or anything like that from the keys. So you can go so you can go ahead and play it, and yeah, be ready to be blown away. So you can hear a one-tone choir. That's the angels. That's not the synth.
You're saying there was no power, no pianos, no synth.
No, there was absolutely nothing that we could do, and yeah, we didn't have lights, we didn't have electricity. My phone, like, that I did not take that with my phone because my phone was dead because I couldn't charge my phone. So yeah, that's actually all a cappella. And so that's the audio that I listen to. Yeah, in my quiet times. So, but that is something that I could listen to all day, literally. Like, it was so okay. Like, wasn't it beautiful? Like, it was absolutely gorgeous. That went on for a whole hour, and people were falling on their faces. And that's about as much as we accomplished in that time. But that's so significant for the era that we're in right now, I feel like. Yeah, it's just I feel like I really grew an awareness of the spiritual realm, and I felt like if I were to summarize, I would say it was about an awakening for me in my spirit, that it just was like it was slumbering. It was there, it was slumbering, but that awareness wasn't. It just hadn't been awoken. And in this last season, I really felt like, yeah, I just like, hello, reality, like wake up, And for me, it was so cool because I shared that within my staff team, and we started praying for people outside of YWAM, just for that same awakening that was inside of that happened with me. And I really felt like it was a miracle for me. Yeah, just to have that awakening at such a young age. And so every contending morning, we actually prayed for Gen Z, which is my generation. And I really believe God has so much for my generation, but they're struggling, and God has so much goodness for them, and they are called to be leaders. But I know that there is so much battle, interior and mental, specifically mental battle going on in their minds. And so we prayed for all confusion to stop, and we prayed, we just prayed for that same awakening inside of Gen Z, which was so wonderful. And even they had us, they were like, think of someone you know who's in Gen Z. And I know there's a couple of people in this body in my generation. And so it was so cool to just intercede for them and pray in front of everyone, too, in front of the campus, specifically say their names and pray. And it just was really such a wonderful moment to stand in the gap for my fellow brothers and sisters. And so, it's just so key that that happened in this time, for such a time as this. It's just it's really incredible. I really believe that there are, like, when I think of that moment, I actually see a picture of, like, the globe and the choir of angels that were singing over us and with us, actually holding hands around the world, singing over us. And that's been a picture that I've been holding on to for a few months, ever since I had that, and just been really praying into it. And, like, God, I know, like, that picture that you're giving me is something that I'm going to hold on to. And I know that you are so present and singing over us right now, no matter where you're from. God is singing over us. And it's just that awakening to happen, so that we can all feel his presence. That was really incredible. From that, we had a lot of moments of wonderful intercession times. We even had intercession times within just School of Worship. And we sent out two outreach teams, one to Nashville, New York, and Washington, D.C. It was a little worship tour type of thing. And then the other one was sent to Mazatlan, Mexico. And so they are actually still on outreach, and it's really cool getting to see what God is doing, the songs that are being birthed outside of just this season right now. We had an intercession time praying for the outreach teams, and there were people that did not go on outreach, and so I actually led the intercession time for those people, as I wasn't going on outreach. And so we started praying, and two of the students who were in my group were from Mexico. And so I was like, tell me about Mexico. Like, we're going to pray for the outreach teams, but tell me about Mexico. I know nothing. And they said there's a huge spirit, like, people celebrate death there. And not so much celebrate life, but celebrate death. And man, it broke my heart. And I was like, wow, we should pray into that and really pray for protection too over our team, as they're going to be around that, And so we started praying, and she was also telling me a little bit of, like, some of her story, a little bit of growing up in Mexico and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, it was so weird. It was a really big step of faith for me to have to actually do this. But when I was looking at her, we were all closing our eyes, and I opened my eyes and I was looking at her, and I was like, wow, like, I was just in awe of, like, okay, wow, she's incredible. Like, God brought her here all the way, like, from Mexico, and is here in Kona, Hawaii, part of our School of Worship. And it was hitting me. And I looked at her and I said, hey, look at me. And she looked at me. I was like, can I pray for your womb? And it was so weird, because it was like, I probably a little threw her off, just a little, But no, God was like, do it. Like, I was like, okay. I was like, all right, obedience, let's do this. And so I literally just started with that. Hey, can I pray for your womb? And everyone in the circle was like, what is wrong with this chick? And except for the girl who I asked to pray for. And she said, yes. And I was like, great. All right. close your eyes. Let's start praying. So I started praying, and I prayed for the same seed from Abraham in the Bible, for that same type of seed inside of her, in her womb. And I was like, you're going to start a generation of leaders. And so I started declaring it and praying it, and she was breaking down in tears. And I was like, you're going to have children. And I kept on saying that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what I'm saying. But I was like, you're going to have children. Don't worry. You're going to have children. God gave you the womb, the body for it. And she started breaking down in tears, and she was sitting in a chair, and she fell out of her chair and just was sobbing on the floor. And we all like started speaking in tongues and praying, and I started singing over her. And I was like, and once she started like calming down, I was like, all right, can you explain the tears to me? And I was like, not that I need to know, but I was like, I really feel like I'm supposed to know. And so she said, not having children is my greatest fear. That's been my greatest fear ever since I was a little kid. It's always been her dream and desire to have kids, but she felt, I think, she had said someone spoke over her when she was really young that she was never going to have kids. And so that became her greatest fear. And I was like, all right, let's break those words off of you now. Let's break that curse, actually. And so we broke it off, and it was incredible because she got to share that moment of intercession with the whole campus. Because that was an intercession time of just school of worship, but she ended up sharing that when YWAM Kona does a lot of rapid fire lines, where people get up and just pray, hand the mic, like pray. And so she, so you're supposed to go up and pray, really, but she actually ended up just sharing. And it was so cool to just be a part of that. And man, I'm really glad I listened to the Lord. Really glad, because none of that had happened, if I hadn't listened to the Lord. And so from then on, I really felt I knew my ministry. I knew what God had called me into, and what I was created for, my purpose. And so from that moment on, that was about halfway through the school. From that moment on, praying for my student's womb, God kept on putting me in places like that and opportunities. And so another moment like that was Francis Chan came and spoke in YWAM Kona. I think he comes and speaks every quarter. Not about the same thing, but he comes and speaks. And yeah, he starts out every time with prayer on his knees. He doesn't even say, hello, family, like whatever. He grabs the mic and falls on his knees and starts praying. And it's just, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to witness that. And but Francis Chan, YWAM always does altar calls. Woohoo! Like, okay, like worship, word, altar call. That's it. But it's actually not very mundane for me. It's wonderful to be a part of that. But anyways, Francis Chan, after he spoke, Gen Z was such a huge topic this last season, like so huge. And he actually spoke on my generation again. And I was like, man, would have been a bummer if I missed out on this, because this is my generation. And so, afterwards he said, if any students want to come up and receive prayer or receive Jesus, I know you're here in a Christian organization, but if you would like to accept Jesus into your heart again, or just receive prayer, come on up. Only students. And I was like, oh, that's not me. So I was like, well, I guess I'm being left out of this. And so pretty much every student went up. And it was incredible. Quiet hours at YWAM Kona are 9 p.m. That night, quiet hours didn't exist, which was great. But yeah, and then they said once all the students are up, I actually want some staff to come around and pray. And it was so cool because it was all the students, Francis Chan on the stage, and then like this semicircle or half circle of just staff, like on the outside. And so I went up and I was like, am I supposed to stay here planted in one place and just pray for everyone? Can I pray for one person? And I was starting to I was limiting everything, and so I actually felt the okay from God to be like, you're good to move forward, in the sea of all the students. And so, yeah, but there were so many students. I was like, I don't even know who to pray for. Like, I'm gonna need a clear sign of this. So I started praying. I was like, all right, I got the okay, but God, could you highlight someone to me? Whether it be someone's bright shirt, whether it be a hairpin, whether it be something. Because I can't just, there's so many people. And so I closed my eyes. I was like, thank you, Lord. Just spending a little bit of time. Open my eyes, and I see this girl in front of me, and she falls right at my feet. And I was like, all right, that's clear. That's clear enough for me. So I was like, all right, that was so clear for me. That's all right. That's my person. Come to pray. So I bent down, knelt next to them, and it was so cool, like getting to just pray for them, and be like, seeing like God was giving me so many visions of them and stuff. But then I actually like closed my eyes for a little bit and opened my eyes, and I saw this river straight down the middle. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And so I kept on okay, maybe I'm like picturing things. But no, it was so evident that it was there. And she was laying right in the middle of the river. And I was like, all right, God, what does this river represent? Oh, I know. River of life and joy. And she was right in the middle of it. And so I said, you're in the river of life and joy, and you're closing your mouth. And I was like, maybe try opening it. And when she opened it, she started laughing hysterically. And this was not something creepy to me because we do it here. So I was like, okay, good. I'm equipped for this. No. But no, it just was so great. But it was interesting because I wasn't laughing myself, because I felt like I had a mantle on me of praying and ministering. And so yeah, it was really cool because I just saw this river and I was like, you know what? People are about to join you. People are about to jump in this river with you. And it was so funny because there was a staff member right next to me, and their I kid you not, their toe, like if this was the line, this black thing, her foot went like this and she fell and just collapsed and fell in the river. And I was like, see, people are joining you. And then she started laughing, and it was so cool because this went on past 9:00. And went well into 10:30, 11 p.m. of this. And by the end of the night, I saw a ton of I never fell down, but I saw these bodies literally just laying in it was so cool, just all these bodies that were forming a river, and it was so evident. And this was another moment that marked me for my ministry, because I was the only one that had not fallen, and I was standing amongst a sea of bodies that had all fallen. And I was like, wow. Okay, wow, this is huge for my ministry. Like, this is going to be a moment that really, whoo. So yeah, it was so evident. And I was there until the very last person got up. And it was so cool because when they stood up, I was like, all right, let's go back to the room. We're done. And then all of a sudden, her body just starts going backwards, and she walks backwards. And I was like, wait, I thought we were going this way, and you're going that. So I had to run after her and get her. And it was significant for her because she was so used to going with the current, but it was a word for her of don't go with the current, go against it. And so I started ministering again to her, and I was like, all right, you are special, you aren't meant to just fit in with everyone. There's something special about you. So don't always just go with what everyone's doing, And so I started praying for her again. And yeah, it just was really cool to see her receive it. I think she's had a lot of issues with receiving and accepting things. And so it was just really cool to see her receive those words of life. And she's around my age, so it was cool to be sharing with her with my own generation. So it was really incredible. And then I think I've got a couple of last stories here, but yeah. So I was there during Halloween, and Kona doesn't do Halloween. But yeah, it was cool because I was like, oh, like it doesn't even feel like Halloween exists here. Like it feels like a whole different world. It's not even a holiday or anything. And so, but actually, there were like at the bottom of the base when you is the main road, and there's people that always walk there, and it was really interesting to see all the trick or treaters and people dressed in all their attire or costumes or whatever. And I was like, wow, like I'm not a part of that. It's so cool to be here on this campus. And it was weird because when I would step off the campus, I could feel it. I could feel the darkness. But when I stepped onto the campus, it was like, all right, it's a whole different world here. And so the campus, YWAM Kona invited children, young children, all the way up to Gen Z. We invited local kids to the campus for worship night. And it was cool because being part of the worship team there, being a part of YWAM Kona Music, I was there for that night because we put on the music. And several local kids came to know Jesus and accepted Jesus. They started taking off their costumes and everything, and throwing them on the stage and saying no. And their parents weren't even there. It was like their parents didn't care. Like, oh, here's my kid. Be back in 2 hours. It was like, great, we get to babysit your kids, But it felt even greater than that, just because the joy of seeing them run into their parents' arms, and just with the joy of the Lord that they had never really had or experienced. And it was a wonderful worship time, seeing tons of children accept Jesus, young children accept Jesus. It was beautiful. So I know there's a lot of dark holidays out there, but God has so much more, And so, basically, I share all these stories, yes, because you guys helped me get there and all that, which I'm so grateful for. But it's actually really a time of not only sharing, but I just wanted to encourage you too. Because I know you guys pray. You guys have prayer meetings and pray a lot for the nations. You pray for a governmental system. You pray for a lot of leadership things. And I just even your own prayer lives, I know He hears your prayers. And I really wanted to share this to encourage you of what God is doing, not only within YWAM Kona, but globally what He's doing. He's doing something incredible and moving. And it is so cool to witness and be a part of. So many miracles. And so it's so cool to just be a part of that. And when you guys support me, it's not that you're just only supporting me, it's that you're also partnering with me, but partnering with God and even the bigger picture that He has, and what He has on His heart for the nations. And so, I really just share all these stories to encourage you of what God is doing and how He's moving in the world and in people's lives, no matter how old, young, old. It's really beautiful. And so thank you guys so much. And I wanted to end with one thing, and sorry. And when I share all these stories, I feel like I only have one response, and it's really just coming before Him, and just like, Lord, like I just feel like coming before His throne and kneeling at His feet, and just in awe and wonder. And there's a song called Boldly I Approach, and it's a huge YWAM Kona song, but it's also, I really think it's a song for this season, for what God is doing. And so I actually wanted to end with this song, Coming Before His Throne, and just really exalting and praising and acknowledging what He is doing. And so you guys can join me if you want, but it's this response of coming before His throne and giving everything to Him and being like, God, we see You. We also see the difficulties in our world right now, but boldly we come before Your throne, boldly we come at our knees, giving maybe the difficulties, the struggles. Maybe it's even in our own lives, not just the globe, but but us too, giving everything to him and acknowledging him and the power that he has in our lives. So here's Boldly I Approach, and we can worship together for a little bit and then pass it off.